Hey everybody! In this episode, we are going to be going over how to create this cool little animating in effect where we can draw in the outline of an SVG using HTML, CSS, and a little thing called Anime.js. Anime.js makes it very easy for us to create animations with SVGs. We're also going to use a little bit of Figma here, which is a free design tool, to actually create our own custom SVGs. So let's just jump into the video so you can see how it's done. The first thing we're going to do is actually create the SVG that we're going to animate. So to do that, we're going to use a tool called Figma. Figma is a free design tool that you can get at figma.com, and I'll leave a link in the description below. But it's pretty easy to use, and I use it for most of my design work, so it's definitely worth playing around with. And the first thing we're going to do is actually grab the text tool, which is up here. And we can then just click anywhere. It will give us the option to start typing. I'm going to bump up the font to 144 to start so you can actually see this. Then I can start typing amazing, if I could spell. I'm going to actually stick to the Roboto font just so you don't have to see me playing around and trying to find a nice font to work with, because that can always take a while when I start looking for those. And what we're going to want to try and do is actually have each of these letters as their own path in the SVG so that we can animate them at different timings. And to do that is very simple in Figma. Before we start playing around with it, all we have to do is actually right-click that layer. We can outline stroke. Now you'll see it's actually turned into a vector. And now that it's a vector, we can start to play around with it a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is add a stroke. And I'll add a stroke of 3. I'm going to remove the fill. I like that pink color that I had in the intro, so I'm going to add that back in. And that's F107BA. Cool. Nice and flashy, because I love subtlety, so I'm going to keep it like that. The easy part about when we need this now is we can right click this again, this layer again, and we can go to copy, paste, and copy as SVG. And that lets us actually just paste in that SVG wherever we're going to use it, so we don't have to download it and look at it or anything. We can just use it directly from here. So now in Visual Studio Code, I'm actually going to start making some boilerplate so we can start using this SVG and animating it. So to do that, first I'm going to create our Html5 boilerplate. Then I'm going to include my SVG here, and as you can see, all the different paths here are separated. And I'm going to save that just to make sure that we have it. And yeah, okay, so we can see our amazing text here. But I would like to have some styles and to add it to the middle of the page. So I'm going to first off add in a style sheet. So we'll do the link to a style sheet here first. And it's linking already by default to style.css. So what I'm going to do is actually create the style.css file. And in the styles, I'm just going to add a few simple things. So to the body, I'll add a background of a nice dark gray. I'll add a margin of 0, just so we don't get any white space. I'll give it a height of 100 view height and a width of 100 view width. We'll display it to flex. Justify the content to center and align the items to center. And then I'm going to just save my index.html. And if we look back, now it's in the middle where we want it. The next thing we're going to do is actually wire up the Anime.js library. And to stop us from having to download it, what I'm actually going to do is grab it from a CDN, just to make it easier so you don't have to download it or do anything like that. So here on the CDN, I'm just going to copy this. If you Google Anime.js CDN, you'll find this fairly quickly. And I'll also leave a link to this in the description below in case you just want to grab it to test it out yourself. So then I will actually add it into my file by going script with a source, and we have it included now. Excellent. So then at the very bottom of the page, I'm just going to open and close some script tags because that's where I'm actually going to do in my JavaScript, because there's actually not too much JavaScript that has to be written for this one. So I'm going to actually just do it in the bottom of the page. So let's jump over to the docs for a second and see what we actually have to do to achieve this effect. So here in GitHub, we'll see Anime.js and all the installation instructions and everything else. But what I care about is the actual documentation. So I am going to go over to animejs.com. And I get a nice little flashy animation to start. So what I'm going to do is then hit into the docs. And you'll see on the left here, we have an actual SVG section. It's pretty comprehensive. It has examples here of what you're trying to achieve. We know we're trying to achieve a line drawing here, so we're going to click down to here. And the magic happens basically with this -offset value, and we set it with anime.set-offset in a from to formatted value, and that's this here. And that's basically the magic of knowing where it starts and goes ahead. And we also have a delay function here, which we'll use to actually make sure that we get our letters coming in at different timings. So I'm actually going to copy all of this over, and then we'll play around with it. So now back in our code, we will paste that in. It needs a target. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to give the SVG a class or an ID of amazing. Awesome. And then we can target that ID down here. So I'm going to say amazing and then path, because we want to target each of the paths. Now let's save it like that and just see what it looks like from now. It works. Excellent. So what we can do now is just play around with the timing functions a little bit, or talk through them so you can see the different options here. There's lots of different easing rules that you can find in the documentation. They have a whole section on this. So let's say we want to slow this down and really exaggerate this. So we're going to say 500 milliseconds for each of the elements index. So that's what's happening here. We have the element, if we wanted to do something with the element, and the index value. So let's see what that looks like. And it's a little slower to start, but now we can really exaggerate that drawing effect. If you wanted this to just run once, what we can do is actually change that loop. So here we can say loop false. So say if you had a landing page and you just wanted to actually make this as a cool effect just once when you land, this would be what you would change here. And you can have the directions go from forward and reverse too. But for me, this is going to be fine for this. And it slowly animates in. Excellent. As you can see, now it just stays there. So that'd be a great kind of hero landing or something to really just make your website pop. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like and subscribe because I have a few more creative tutorials like this coming up, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Until next time, happy coding.